Hi, it's Kimberley. Yesterday we received my bare root order from Palatine Roses, and we had them soaking for 24 hours, and so now it's time to talk about planting them. But before we start talking about planting, I wanted to talk to you about some of the unique conditions that we have here in 7B, Maryland. I'm sure that my conditions, as opposed to somebody who is also in 7B that's not on the water, they're not experiencing a lot of the things that we are. And so we struggle with two different planting situations here. We have the waterfront side of the house that it's windy, and so I have to make sure with those roses that I'm planting them a little bit deeper, protecting them with mulch because they're subjected to high winds, and then also the spray that they might get from the water. I'm out here on the street side today, and what I struggle with here is a very high water table, and so we're constantly struggling with, if it rains, we're going to have water sitting out here for 2 to 3 days, and we've brought in a ton of topsoil and we've tried to alleviate the situation. And probably for the first 6 years that we lived here, I was trying to put that square peg in the round hole. I was trying to figure out how to force these roses and these plants to deal with my environment, and now I've realized after losing a couple of plants that it's time for me to start working with what I've been given. So I've had all of the soil tested, lots of different places. I think I have clay soil, but the county says that I have very neutral, loamy soil. I disagree, but what I do differently here, and I wanted to share with you today, is if you look what I've done here with my roses, I have built raised boxes with pressure treated wood. I've spray painted them, and I'm planning on coming back and touching up the spray paint as soon as it's a little bit warmer. And I planted my roses. This side of the hydrangea is reds, all of my red David Austins, and on the other side of the hydrangeas I have boxes that have pink roses. So I wanted to share with you what I do after you build your pressure treated boxes. The great part about this is if you have soil that's difficult, whether it's clay, this gives you the ability to really control your environment a little bit more. So you're going to put the topsoil in. You're going to raise these roses up out of the ground just a little bit more, and that's what this area needs. With it being a high water table and that water might sit for 2 days, I want to lift those roses just a little bit higher out of the ground to give them a little bit longer to acclimate those roots, grow, mature, so that they can deal with what I've got going on here. So I've built the boxes, and I am planting these. I've done a lot of research to find out, when you're looking at those David Austin catalogs and you're saying, oh my gosh, you know, this rose looks amazing. How do they get their roses so full? And so I reached out, and they told me that with a lot of their planters, they're putting 2 roses, 2 shrubs in one planter. You just need to make sure that your planter is 20 by 20 inches by 20 wide. And then when they're planting in their landscapes, they're putting 3 shrubs together. They're keeping them 18 to 24 inches apart, but that will give you that really full look with lots of blooms. And so that's what I've done here in my gardens. I try to keep everything 18 to 24 inches apart. And I've read some contrasting feedback where people say, oh, you need to let them breathe, they need to be further apart. But I'm out here every day enjoying the gardens, taking a 30-minute walk every day and looking at the roses. And in the event that I saw that anybody was struggling and that they needed more room, I could certainly mark that to go ahead and move them in the fall. But to date, I haven't noticed that. They're happy being close together, and it gives me a fuller look. And so, as I mentioned, out here I have all different roses. Rather than doing 3, I do have some rose beds that I'll show you later in the summer where I've done 3 Desdemona, and then 3 Evelyn, and 3 Abraham Darby. And so I do make sure that I'm making those groupings of 3. But out here I just wanted to have all of my favorite roses, just one of each one, so that I could walk around and see how they were doing together. And I think that having all red on one side, that appeals to me, but I'm I'm sure that you all have whatever appeals to you, just do it. You need to be the one that's enjoying your garden. So I've talked about how far apart I plant my roses. Now you're also going to learn that there are two different ways to plant the rose itself. And so when you have your rose, people are going to say, do I plant this part of the crown under the ground? And you'll find that some roses have a longer neck on them. So as I mentioned, when we're dealing with an extreme environment where you're going to get freezes, or you're going to be down by the water with the salt spray and the elements and the wind, you're going to want to make sure that you plant up to the top of this crown and cover it. But if you have a rose that has a longer neck on it, and you're not in an extreme environment, I've been told by David Austin that I can keep that neck out of the ground. And so when I'm here in this section by the street, I don't have to go as deep with the roses. I just make sure that I'm covering the crown, or as much of the neck as I like, and then they've been fine. So I wanted to share that with you, and but let's go ahead and get to some planting, the exciting part. So let me put on my gloves here, just because I want to try to give the illusion that I'm being clean, but honestly, I'm out here, I'm going to be getting dirty. So I've already measured where 18 to 24 inches is, and in each one of these raised boxes I can put 4. And I'm sad because I'm running out of room, so I'm going to have to find somewhere else to keep adding to my collection. But so what I'm going to do here, when you plant, just need a few things. You're going to need your shovel. Biotone fertilizer is what I use on all of my roses, and just a little bit of topsoil to backfill. Go ahead and bring your tape measure if you're going to be measuring the area, and then of course the labels that I was telling you that I made for all of your roses. You can go ahead and get those ready to put in so that you can remember what you've put in the ground. So anyways, so what I'm going to do here is, with this rose here, it's got a tag on it, so let me go ahead and take that off, okay? And then for this rose here, let me grab my biotone. I want this rose to be about here, and I'm going to bring the soil here. And so this is very similar to if you were going to be putting it in a planter. You could just go ahead and fill up your planter halfway with your topsoil, sit your rose in. You're going to put your biotone on the roots like this, and then you're going to go ahead and, I think it might even be called healing it in. You're going to go ahead and get that into place. And I'm going to bring topsoil on top of these in a second. And so here with this one, I'm going to go ahead, and this one's going to have to, you want to kind of spread the roots out a little bit like this, so that it can grow and expand. And then I'm going to get my biotone, sprinkle it here on your roots. And you can't have too much biotone. It's all good stuff. All right, so this is what I'm doing here for these 2 roses. This is the Prince. So I'm going to go ahead and put my label here for the Squire and the Prince. Now let me get my soil. I'm going to cover them over, and I'm going to go ahead and get the rest of these planted before I lose all the sun for the day. So I just finished planting my last rose, and I've got, if you remember, I had 19 yesterday. I planted everything that goes on the street side, and then over the next day I'll probably start working on the waterfront side to get the rest of those in. But I wanted to share with you, when I was over here, I saw that I have a perfect example of what the water issue that we deal with, and I'm sure that many of you do too, and you've been looking for a solution to be able to still garden and plant in that kind of environment. So I'm really hoping that this video was helpful and that you'll consider doing a raised bed for any plants. I mean, what do you have to lose? Just give it a try, and you can always use planters. There are some beautiful cast stone planters out there where you can go ahead and put a tree in, put a rose in, whatever appeals to you. But anyways, I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thanks so much. Bye.